It's a interesting area for discussion. When you take an overall kitchen, somebody mentioned yesterday that we are kitchen manufacturers. The overall cost of the kitchen or the value of the kitchen, it's only 10% that we actually manufacture and which is within our control. We buy the fittings, we buy the accessories, we buy everything else. And they are all making money and we are making so much less money. The panelists who were there at that time were trying to kind of pacify him, saying it is, it's all right, it doesn't matter, all kinds of things, and etc., etc. But that is really the truth. Kitchen manufacturing is panel processing. If you can cut a panel, if you can edge band a panel or protect it in various other ways, if you can drill a panel, you can produce almost anything in panel processing. It is simply in what scale, what sizes, and what not. But this is the frame of the kitchen. If we don't have the cabinets, and we don't have the cabinets in the right sizes, produced right, whatever else you have of higher value, fittings, fixtures, accessories, all the other filigree that you put onto it is not going to make a kitchen. Therefore, this is the coat hanger on which you're going to hang everything on, and it does become very important to produce the cabinetry part of it efficiently and accurately. I take these two words, efficiently and accurately, in terms of quality separately. When it comes to the way in which most of our kitchen industry is here today, and many of you who are into it, who are here today, the efficiency possibly takes a backseat to quality, because we are producing small numbers of kitchens, we are possibly producing one-off, customized as we were looking at it, and therefore the efficiency in here is a bit of a question mark. Efficiency would come in when you're into project supplies, when you're going to be talking in terms of producing a number of kitchens together, irrespective of whether you're going to be producing it of the same patterns or you're going to be having different patterns. The largest of kitchen manufacturers amongst us here today still hasn't reached the kind of levels where we really have to look at the real efficiency part of it in terms of utilization of materials, in terms of utilization of consumables and everything else. But it is very important to us to be able to produce it to a good quality, acceptable quality, and therefore in doing it we should do it efficiently. That's why we have a whole panel of experts here who are each going to be able to give their views on every aspect of this cabinetry production. Every part of a kitchen is important. You can't say that cabinetry is the most important part, you can't say that the fittings are the most important part. Every part of it is important. And what we have been seeing, like this morning in the panel discussion as well as many times yesterday, and what Maria has also been expounding yesterday, is that design really differentiates. Design really is what makes a kitchen exclusive, desirable, saleable. Now you start with an architect's design, which is concept and to some extent you land up in the shop drawings. Usually what we as manufacturers will get are the shop drawings, which gives you the overall layout, the dimensions and the specifications and everything else. Here starts the manufacturer's journey to produce it to quality perfectly in time. So the next step obviously is to be able to break it down into sub-assemblies, to break it down then into component drawings, and from there into manufacturing drawings. Many of my friends always ask me what is the big difference between a carpenter-made kitchen and machine-made kitchen. Here becomes the biggest differentiation. A carpenter can work from even sub-assembly drawings, whereas a machine cannot work from anything except a manufacturing drawing. It needs to be programmed. So, when we are looking at mechanizing the production, we will have to come around to the manufacturing drawing, and from that, we have got to be able to produce it in a manner where if you finally assemble the 5 sides, it will assemble in the manner in which it is designed to. You cannot mark AA and BB as we used to do it many times working with the carpenters. If you're going to be having 25 cabinets and you can't be making AA1, AA2 for each of these. So you differentiate it and assemble it. How are we going to achieve it? And what are all the important requirements in that? In a cabinet, you need the materials. You need the machines. You need the tools to work it. You need the adhesives and the consumables and the accessories and fittings. You need to know it to be able to pre-plan where it will be installed. Therefore, we start off first with the materials. I have my friend Basin here, extraordinarily known in the field of materials here, and today heads the marketing of the largest manufacturer of particle board in this country. But he's here as a materials expert, not only on the basis of particle board, but many of the other materials that do come into the manufacture of cabinetry. So Basin Saab, the very first discussion that we possibly should get into is what are the important aspects of the materials that are to be used in the cabinetry in terms of the dimensions, in terms of various other parameters, and where should you use what, let us say, in terms of particle board itself.
Thank you, Ramu sir. Good morning to everybody. As we know that Mr. Ramu sir started with the first note was the cost efficiency of the material and the efficiency of the material what we use in kitchen manufacturing. Until recently, the major challenge we have been facing was a good quality panel to be made available for kitchen manufacturing. It consists in 2 categories. One is a normal P2 grade, regular grade particle board, which is a furniture grade particle board. And second is a particle board which has a high moisture resistance to the water, where we think that panel is subject to be more moisture resistant. Second big challenge was then when we cut, as you please know that particle board is an engineered item and it is a well calibrated item. So we get one dimension continuously in the same way without any thickness variation between the board or board to board. And this helps us in programming a large scale of production where other things when get involved into the panel like edge bending and putting the hardware does not get disturbed. So well-calibrated particle board is the one requirement which has been met with. Second thing is, particle board were desired to have a better holding strength, where screw do not come out, and for a longer period of time, they are able to hold the accessories. In this connection, we have achieved a graded board which is 3-layered. As you are please aware that most of the hardware are used on the surface of the product. So surface had to be more close. And when we say the density of particle board is around 650 to 700 kg, the surface density of particle board comes to around 900 kg and the central layer comes to around 450 to 500 kg. Thus it is manufactured on the principle of I-beam structure, where outer two layers are more close than the inner layer. This leaves a very important factor for the hardware fitting is that screw holding strength on the surface is very high, which is normally scaled at 250 kg to 300 kg pull required to pull the screw out of it. This achievement itself is a very good achievement, so that it will give the longevity. Normally we had the inception. We are having particle board in our country for the last 50, 60 years, but we were having the inception that it is a Bhusa board or it is not a strong board, and if we fix, screw will come out. But thanks to the facility available now in country, which is the county press and the latest technology in the world, we are able to give you a well-calibrated particle board. Now this
can I just ask you, interrupt you again? You can hear me from this? Particle board, well made like you do, with all the basic parameters and properties it should have, is an excellent material. Even today in the world, most of the kitchens manufactured are with particle board. In the particle board itself, and it's quite applicable to many other boards also, we have a 8x4 culture in India. It came from the beginning, from the plywood.
Yes.
Now, most kitchen manufacturers possibly would agree with you that better yield comes from different other types of other dimensions.
Yes.
What would you say would be the best dimension in today's situation for a kitchen manufacturer here to have the best yield out of the board?
Yes. With my past experience and what I have learned in this industry is that normally we cut panels into the size of 2 feet and 1.5 feet. As a rule, the larger the size, the least the wastage, it is said. 9 feet by 6 feet is the one size, which is very important, and it will give the least wastage. And in case we have panels only with the width of 2 feet, then 8 feet by 6 feet is the size, which will give the least wastage. Apart from this larger size, I am pleased to inform you all that until recently, the boards available in our country were having the 183 within centimeter width of the board. Now, when we cut the board, as we are please aware, that cutter itself has a thickness of around 0.3 mm or 3 mm that, and when we cut the board, that also takes away the width of the board as a cutting margin into it. So the second good achievement is that when we see the width, if we have a 184 centimeter width of the board, you will get the end panel very correct sizes. So that the under sizes end panels will not come. We will get exact 2 feet or exact 3 feet. These are the two parameters in the size.
You should forgive this panel if we cannot go very deep into every aspect, because there's not so much of time to sit down onto that. But after this, as I understand, there is going to be a question the speakers or whatever it is, and a hell of a lot of things can come out of that. One of the major issues, Bhasin Saab, that all of us have been facing in mechanizing in this country has been the thickness variations.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure that in a plant like yours, you have already tackled it and you deliver a thickness which is within the required tolerance.
Yes.
But apart from you, in general, there is a lot of other materials that are available. Would you say that that is still a major problem?
Yes, actually what happened, it's a technological issue. Until recently, we were having the particle board manufacturing units, which were flat placed and multi-deluxe units. When we produce these units, suppose we have to arrive at 18 mm board, the raw board thickness is around 19.5 mm to 21, 22 mm. Then these boards are sanded, and once we sand the board, the larger area is to be sand. And then calibration reaching to exact thickness becomes a very big challenge. In counter press system, the boards are more accurate, and the raw board itself is having only 18 mm board will be produced 18.6 mm board. So 0.6 mm is the only thickness which is, you see, to be sanded, and it is well calibrated. Therefore, thickness variation issue has been now sorted out.
How we are still in India to a large extent carpentry oriented manufacture, therefore plywood is the let's say at a lower or smaller quantities of production, plywood is the most preferred material. And in the way in which we make it, in the way in which we have no tolerances and whatnot and things like that, it is a nightmare to every machinery manufacturer. It is often that a customer would demand it, the carpenter prefers it, that you take simply a piece of plywood, cut it, you put a high pressure laminate on top of it, and one of the excuses for using this is it is marine grade plywood which withstands anything that can happen. A tsunami can come, but nothing will happen to my plywood. I don't think we will go very deep into the genesis of this marine grade. Today it is more green paint applied plywood, and there are some manufacturers of machinery up north who manufacture green paint applicating machines. So the whole process of preparation of plywood and preserving it is gone upside down. Secondly, also what ends up happening is that the carpenter uses a normal white glue, right, polyvinyl acetate adhesive, which in its purest form under D3 does not have any water resistance whatsoever. But many of you find it very difficult to be able to convince your customers to say that an HMR grade particle board is far better than using a so-called marine grade plywood and sticking a laminate onto it with whatever is available to you with you to stick. The carpenter culture basically also is, instead of many of us fighting it, most of us yield to it. Therefore, we propagate the same myth that goes around everywhere else. Several extent of materials that are available today in various forms, and therefore a good material of good quality is the starting point. That's the most important part. But if you are going to go away from the culture of carpenter making kitchens, our designers spoke so much about it that you put that concrete slab on top of it, then the whole thing is screwed. It is impossible for you to really make a modular kitchen and fit it into that. But it is very difficult at this moment, because I know my friend will agree that how do you convince a builder that he should not put that stupid slab out there? So it starts from there to be able to do something more efficiently. But if you put the slab, then you are on the carpentry level. You don't put the slab, then you come on to a factory-made kitchen. The factory has to have machines, not just materials. And these machines have to be able to process these materials. And as my friend Govind will say, particle board and MDF and all these are not materials that can be sawn by hand by a carpenter and put onto nails, and therefore Toko Maro will not work. So necessarily you need machines in being able to process these. Now, Govind, as the managing director of HOMAG, with all your years of experience in processing panels, you know the overall spread of the industry here from the smallest to medium level. I don't use the largest. How important would you say is the quality of the machine that itself has to be used on the material, even if it is the best quality material? What would you say from the point of utilization of the machines in cutting, in edge banding, in drilling? What would you say is the single most important point which should not be ignored for the reason of quality?
Hello, everyone. It's a very important question because material and machines, they work together. So they have to work as a family in order to get a better product out of the machines, out of various process, as well as out of the factory. So as Ramu sir said, that there are three important processes in a cabinet manufacturing, and that is cutting, edge banding, that is sealing the edge, and boring, so that you can assemble as a cabinet. It's very important to understand on the shop floor the capacities of each of these three manufacturing stations or workstations. And in many of the factories that we visit, we see that's an imbalance of capacities. So either the cutting is faster and then the second process, edge banding, becomes a bottleneck, which leads to inefficiency or which leads to a reduction in output. Therefore, it's very, very important that before we select any equipment, that we have a balance equipment which would give a optimum output at the end of the day. This is one important point. And second important point is the layout of the factory. So where I would say each panel which moves in the factory should move at a less number of, I would say, meters or kilometers. So the movement of the panel should be as less as possible. That's where layout plays an important role in the movement of material. So these two important points.
Yeah, it's. I agree with Govind on that. The hundreds of factories that over the last few years that I have visited, and I continue to visit, we have a group of machines, and we tend to think that it is a manufacturing setup. It is just a set of groups of machines that are lying around, because you think, I must need something to cut, I must need something to edge band, I need something to drill. There is no soul in the factory. There has got to be an atma in it, which is finally going to make it work like a manufacturing setup. There's a big difference between simply having machines which can do these. It is, if God had thrown the hands, the legs, and the head in different places and told you, all right, I've created a human being, you haven't. So it is the same thing when it comes to a manufacturing setup. It is very much necessary to plan every aspect of it in terms of the flow of materials, the kind of all other supports and everything else that you need onto it. That is when you really have the soul of the factory, and therefore you'll be able to function much better. But in the efficiency levels go in, starting point is the sizing. Would you say that that is the most important point, or that every other point as you go along does become important because of the accuracy of the sawing itself?
Yeah, definitely. As you said, accuracy of sawing is really very, very important, because that's the first process in cabinet manufacturing. And if there are errors in cutting or in sawing, these would then magnify further when you do the next process of edge banding or drilling and then into assembly. So here I would say it's very important that these three workstations or three basic processes in cabinet manufacturing, these stations should talk to each other. So it's very, very important that you or any manufacturing setup should have an excellent software which would, as we, in the beginning we discussed that it would convert the design drawings into manufacturing drawings. And today there are many softwares available which would convert the designs of an architect or an interior designer into manufacturing drawings without any errors. And then these drawings become the base of the machines. So they I would say create a kind of barcode, these softwares, and then the machines talk to each other with help of these barcode. And that's where you can avoid manual errors in these three stations.
Yeah, that's when we are talking about a reasonably large setup.
Yeah.
When, irrespective of whether the setup is large or whether it is small, one point that Govind raises, which is extraordinarily important, is the accuracy of panel sizing. The diagonal accuracies has to be very, very good, otherwise one component does not fit to the other component. And it is also essential that when it is going to be manufactured in a machine, then the machine operator or the machine station simply needs to know as to what will be his input and what is going to be his output. He's not bothered about it is going, there is a kitchen for Mr. Rajpal, and therefore what is the size that I have got to cut for it. That's a major difference that comes in there in terms of working in a factory. Now the factory is not only materials and machines. Machines are dumb unless there is a little bit of a working life that is put into that, and that's done with the tooling. So we have with us Ajitan from Lights Tooling, my colleague in the company. And he has spent a lot of years in working on the panel production and processing panels. What do you see as the major problem in the small and the medium factories in India with respect to the tooling itself?
The first and foremost problem is an average small scale or even a medium scale manufacturer somehow does not understand or acknowledge the importance of tooling in the manufacturing process. Usually it's considered to be a consumable and usually a C value in your classic materials management calculation, so it's usually ignored. However, this is a very critical element in the quality manufacture, both with respect to quality of the product and also the economy of production in both the cases. The quality of product is already mentioned, the best of materials, you have the best of machines. Now sawing itself, if the cutting is not proper, you're going to have waviness or other defects which will result in poor edge banding, even if you have a very good proofy edge banding. And earlier we mentioned somebody was a discussion about drilling. Even in drilling, if the drill bit is not proper, the quality is not proper, ultimately you will have a little off-size holes and the joinery will not be perfect. And usually the double drill manufacturer, supplier gets blamed for giving the wrong size double drills. This is on the quality, you can expand onto it. So everywhere you have the quality, ultimately it's a shortcoming and you don't get the final quality. More than that, especially more important in a smaller unit also, the economy of production. It's not just the tooling cost. Because of this, having the machine also, you have the proper material consumption, that is, you have minimal rejections, and by proper tooling, you have you can give a faster feed speed, and you can have higher productivity for the same unit of time. Therefore, plus you have a lot of power savings. So various cost elements in manufacturing also you have advantage by using the proper tools.
Let me ask you here. Of course, the best way to use is, the best tools is use light tooling, and therefore you get better one. But quite apart from that,
Yeah.
in many of the factories that you have visited,
Yes.
what in terms of the tooling do you find is wrong?
The main aspect of it is people want to use the same tool for all different materials. Like for a simple elementary panel saw, you have different materials like whether the plain particles board or MDF or pre-laminated padding or even now the plywood, laminated plywood, we are calling about it. They want to use the same saw blade with varying results, varying lives, varying efficiencies. And even when, many times when we recommend also, again, as I mentioned, the operators not in the mood to keep changing the tool every now and then when the material changes. This is the major problem. And then the machining parameters are not well followed. Depending on the type of tool you're using, you need to have different RPMs, different feed speeds. This is also not understand, and this is all the more so very much valid in a CNC or programmable machines where you can vary the feed speeds. Depending on the particular design of the tool, you need to change the feed speed and RPMs.
So you possibly have a shortcoming in terms of being able to educate the people and for them to understand it and use it in the right manner. Ajitan is very right in here. It's not that the technology is not available. It's not that the people are not available in any of these areas to be able to assist and guide and educate, but often there are other kinds of cultural differences. Maria will never understand it. There are cultural differences which come in our way in terms of being able to use the right thing. In 1989, I was working with rubber wood. And most people at that time thought rubber wood means it must bend like rubber and that's what it would be. But when we did start to work with it, I sent about 10 cubic feet of this material to a friend of mine who's a big-time architect. 1 week, 2 weeks, I was not hearing anything from him, so I called him up, "Yaar, kya hua? I sent you all this material and I want to know what is your opinion on it." He said, "Nahi yaar, this is not really working out." I said, "Why?" He said, "Come over, I will tell you." So I went to his city and I asked him, "Okay, now tell me what are the problems you have on the material." So he said, "Oh, Harbhajan, idhar aao na, saab ko batao, why this material is not working?" I had given it to an architect to evaluate and it was Harbhajan who was evaluating. This is the same thing everywhere. You will have the best of machines, but the guy who will decide what kind of a saw blade who will put in there or what kind of a material that will go in there is not you, it is Harbhajan. It has nothing to do racially as Harbhajan. I'm just taking a word as Harbhajan. But I think 90% of the carpenters, the most skilled and the best ones in this country are all Harbhajans. So it is a lacuna that we have, which several have experienced and expressed today. In fact, Gopinath was talking so much about the need to be able to educate people in the right manner, to work in that manner, and to sustain it and keep it at that same point. We have the Advanced Woodworking Training Center here in the Institute of Wood Science and Technology, where we train people in all these kinds of aspects. And you would think that a graduate from there, when he comes over to a factory, will change the way the factory works. He gets changed the way the factory works. Finally, it usually comes into that. I also mean by this that there is a certain amount of, let's say, responsibility of the people who own the factories, who run the factories and who run the businesses in ensuring that when they want to produce the best quality products, then they have to ensure they get the best quality materials, tools, machines, consumables, everything, yes, but along with that, also ensure that there are best practices that are followed. If that is not there, then finally what is going to come out is very different. Yeah, we discussed about the materials, the machines, the tools, one of the very important aspect of the panel processing is the adhesive itself. The input materials like the edge bands are extraordinarily important, done in the right manner, having the right kinds of parameters, properly stress relieved. If you do not have the proper edge band, for example, after some time, it will look like Raj Kapoor's trousers. It will kind of shrink out in places. And there's also the major areas where we lose out in our quality, which most of us do not even realize that it is in adhesives. I have today with me the expert in adhesive, Anand, here. They work in a very wide spectrum of adhesives, in not just the edge banding adhesives was hot melt and EVAs and things like that. There's such a variation in that itself. Also into for flat laminating on with your laminates on top of various kinds of materials. So I need to ask you, Anand, once again the same thing. What I'm trying to build as a theme is of what is of interest to us here in this industry, in the field, where we have something like 75% of the people who are in small neighborhood carpentry level of manufacture, and approximately about, let's say, 14.88% are in the middle level, and I'm still trying to find that 0.12% who are in the larger level. So you have done a phenomenal amount of work with these people. Yours is one of the most used adhesives in all these areas. What, once again, do you find is wrong, which needs to be corrected for the right material?
Thanks, Ramu. I think though adhesive forms only few hundred rupees in a lakhs of worth of cabinet, what is finally used by the consumer, it's only few hundred rupees, but it's most notorious material. Because if it is not used well, we interact quite a bit with consumer. We also interact quite a bit with carpenters as well as consumers. And I realize that as organized manufacturing is going up, the people in the middle and the low also getting into modular manufacturing. I think use of proper adhesive is very important, and that is the most critical if I look at in terms of the future going forward. Because as modular manufacturer, we should be able to give an edge over what we are able to give over the carpenter manufacturer modular furniture. If I look at in that sense in terms of the kitchen, what is the difference? What you can give as manufacturers if it is to do it? There are a lot of materials which are coming in. There are a lot of machines which are coming in, and there are a lot of mechanization which is happening on the machine part. In my sense, the first thing what I would advise is, without changes, to go with the boiling waterproof kind of an adhesive which is not costing you much. It is that kind of a direction we should go. You buy from any company, but I think that is why only go for a normal, because if it is kitchen, boiling water comes in, and while interacting with doing a usage and attribute studies with a lot of this consumer, you find that after a few years, the laminate starts coming off and they start feeling it. And you need to at least assure, if you're going with a higher end modular machine, modular kitchens, then you are able to give material which at least lasts for 4 to 5 years minimum. It is not that lower than that. Because I see, while interacting with a lot of friends here who are into manufacturing of kitchen, modular kitchen, is that cost becomes prohibitive in terms of what is the cost I am able to manufacture. But I think we need to keep our own benchmarks, that what do we want to give as a bare minimum quality of the modular kitchen. Because somewhere you are you as an industry, this is a trendsetter industry. Now if it is, and it is going to grow, there is no way this industry is going to see a slack in coming 7 years. I don't see 7 to 8 years a slack, because there is a huge gap. And to give you a frank answer, I was seeing a small flat in a very small city as a visiting one of the carpenters. Carpenter was also charging him 1 lakh rupee for a kitchen. and it was a flat was worth of only 15 lakh rupees, and he was still charging 1 lakh rupee. Now, the second thing what I want to say is that as a modular manufacturing industry, now when you buy machines as well as material, you buy with lot of capacity in it. How you are able to link to those carpenter and allow him, because you may not be able to reach to each and every consumer because still a long way to go to reach out it. In my sense, the standardization in panel is coming in, and if you are able to focus more on the shutters, if you are able to focus more on some of those standard items and give it to carpenter, because what is happening is what I saw there was, though the consumer is spending 1 lakh rupee for putting up a modular kitchen, which is the bare minimum for 15 lakh rupees flat, I believe it's a very good amount he is spending in. What happens in the worst part, he misses the edges. He does edge painting, or he does deco paint to the edge. Now, if the industry comes together and tries and gives something out there where he is able to get shutters, because that is the most weakest area. If he has a proper edge binding done and lamination done, then that becomes the maximum amount of weakness in terms of it coming out, the laminate coming out, because that is the complaint normally you get after 2 or 3 years after getting it. So that is one way, if the industry looks at it, what can happen. Now, looking at other part of adhesive, which is happening, because Indian kitchens are quite messy. It's not the normal European kitchens. They are very messy in terms of it. Therefore, we always have problems of cockroaches and termites, which are there, and nobody, and I think, yes, there is a lot of people have gone in for going for treatments on various parts. But what is also come in very well, and it is getting accepted, is WPC, and how the industry is ready to take up WPC. And I think that is what is it. We are, as it is worked on the WPC to work with adhesive solution, I think there are other companies which will also work on coming with the solution. But I think the machine and this thing also to come in.
I have to interject here.
Yeah.
WPC is a very good material, yes, as an alternative. But if you're going to be talking about pest problems in India, it doesn't matter whether it is WPC or whether it is, except that if it is a block board, then there is you have the borer problem, which at least is not there. No, one of the major issues what you are bringing out today in terms of this carpenter example is that most consumers are unaware or ignorant of what quality itself is. And that is what Snehal was talking about yesterday, that when they formed the association, the idea of the association really is to be able to spread the message of the quality of modular kitchens and how the rest all has to fall into the picture into that. That is typically what we are also talking about here. You have to educate, remove the ignorance, and then be able to put that in. And in doing that, you have a huge monster called our carpentry kind of work.
To tell you frankly, Ramu, they are not monsters. Most
I'm
of the
just saying,
carpenters are also getting modified. They are putting into workshop.
I'm not calling
the workshop has gone up.
I'm not calling the carpenters as monsters. I'm saying the culture of how we produce it. That is what is a monstrosity. Because you have to overcome that. That is a kind of an angst that everybody has, that you have got to overcome before you are going to be able to get into this. Yeah, you can put all the systems together and yet you have millions of problems before it's going to be possible for you to give a platform in which it is possible for the fittings manufacturer to put his fittings, for the accessory manufacturers to put in his. I mean, you are building the skeleton that is necessary when you manufacture a kitchen, and in this skeleton, everything else is put onto it, and the form is given as to finally what the kitchen is going to be and how it is finally also going to be working. Now, Neil has a lot of expertise, a lot of ideas, what he has been doing before in this area, and we want him to share with us. In the light of what we have discussed today, what would you say are some of the very important points that people who come in here should carry it with them?
Fittings.
In terms of overall, you are not just a fittings expert, right?
Okay.
You are an overall manufacturing expert.
The basic challenge that we face, and this is a kind of stale chewing gum which has lost its taste now, is the standardization. We have been talking about it and it has lost its taste. But I think such are the causes and we need to take stands, and those stands may fail over a period of time. But this is a stand that we need to take in order to have some kind of positive result in terms of growth of this industry. I think on this platform, there should be an initiative taken by Deepak that we must take an oath of standardization, saying that I solemnly declare so and so, such and such things. But that's not going to happen, and ultimately business takes a higher seat. If we standardize as a manufacturer, our challenges are 50% reduced. As far as fittings and different types of fitments are concerned, we have tried to experiment once. We tried to make a library, and we are still working on it. And we tried to use a CNC router to make all the, to drill all the holes in one go. But we fail when in a particular cabinet, a customer wants 3 different accessories 100 times. And we need to allow it. We need to succumb to that kind of a demand. So standardization is the first and foremost thing that we need to work on in order to succeed or in order to go any further in this industry. I think that should be it from my side.
Well, there's in any kitchen manufacturer. Discuss this from here to kingdom come, because there are so many aspects to the whole thing. And when all these kinds of the panel that you see here, the experts sit in, then you have a problem because we don't know where to stop. And I saw Deepak looking at his watch, so I guess it is about time that we wound up to a certain extent, at least to conclude it. What we attempted to do here basically was just a glimpse on what is required, not necessarily only in the efficiency of manufacture, but there is going to be volume in manufacture. We can talk a lot about efficiency. When a major portion of our manufacture here is custom built in small quantities, it is important for us to put our thoughts onto certain aspects of it, like what Bazin talked about, the quality of the material itself, the hidden qualities like screw holding strength, and those as well as those that cause headaches like the thickness variations. So a good set of materials, whether it is particle board, whether it is MDF, whether it is WPC, whether it is other plastic materials that is coming in, for a kitchen manufacturer, whichever is the right one for a particular application is what really applies. You can't say that MDF is better than particle board and plywood is not so good or whatever else it is. And then comes the question of being able to process these materials, being able to get it in the right standards and quality, and then to be able to process it in the right manner. So it's the whole exercise of doing that is what we discussed, basically to say that you need good machines, accurate machines, not just machines, because machines have to be laid out in the right manner and have to be put together in the right manner so that it really is a flow of work and it becomes a factory as such and not an aid to a craftsman. And the machines cannot work if they do not have the right kinds of tools. Good materials, good machines, bad tools, bad quality. All of them good, you have good quality. Unfortunately, anything that is quality, whether it is good material, like Bhasin Saab knows, he is in the market competing with several other manufacturers who do not have the same capabilities, or Govind knows about the Homag machines. Good quality, unfortunately, comes at a price. But if you are looking at good quality, then what you are going to be selling is also going to be having a price. So, good materials, good machines, good tools, and tuk maar ke chipkana, finally you don't have a cabinet. So you need the right kind of consumables, adhesives, to ensure that you complete the quality circle in what you're doing. And if overall we are going to be able to standardize our production, if because of the efforts that the association is putting in, we are going to be able to train the people in every aspect of this manufacture, then the Indian kitchen industry will come of age and in producing good carcasses, good cabinets, good shutters. And then we leave it to all those nice, good people who tell us about which is the best fixture to use, what is the best fitting to use, whether it is a Godrej refrigerator or Siemens refrigerator or whatever else that comes into that. But as a kitchen manufacturer, our dharma is to see that we produce the best. Thank you very much. Do we take the questions now? Or you also have one more session where we continue by sitting there? We are the experts, or are there more experts coming? Okay. The next program is some Ask the Experts, right? Okay, right, fantastic. Good. Yep. Ask slowly in understandable English for Indians. Okay, not in Australian. Speak in English, please. Yeah, it is what we discussed at one particular point in time, that when you're going to work as a factory, when you're going to be working as a manufacturing facility, you've got to bring yourself out of the craftsman level of thinking. You have to follow a process where there is a design that is made. It is a design that is made for the entire structure, and from the architect's concept drawings comes the shop drawings with much more of the details and whatnot and things like that. And from the shop drawings comes the individual sub-assembly drawings with all the specifications of materials and material, everything that you're going to be using in there. And from that comes the component drawing, and from the component drawing comes the manufacturing drawing. Often we tend to take a shortcut in here. And finally, when you're going to be assembling, you see that you're 3 millimeters less or half a millimeter there, or one hole has gone here or the other hole has gone there. Every installer normally goes with one portable drill with him. You don't know when you are going to be needing to drill again, right? And you need to be able to slightly adjust it to see that the edges are right. The beginning point is to be able to have the right, proper drawings. Once you have that, you bring it into the machines part of it, then you will have to have your own quality assurance to see that you produce it within the tolerance limits of what is specified in the drawings. You have answered the question. No, just right. You answered the question. Yes.
So, so I'm Gurudev. I'm from Chennai, and as you rightly put, Mr. Ramu, you said with great Atma you need to work, and with best practices, and with keeping a benchmark. We've been in this industry for last maybe 10 years or so, and we have very few good quality manual machines like Altendorf and Vitap and Homag. And out here, I'm getting a panel error on the panel saw from 0.1 to 0.3. So how do I correct it out? I mean, what's the next level of machine should I invest in?
You should possibly on a panel saw not have more than plus or minus 0.1 millimeter error. That means you must set your panel saw.
On a panel saw. So my
The
question...
panel saw that too, an Altendorf is pretty good to
Pretty
be
good,
able to
yeah,
get
yeah.
accuracies.
But I know that. Now, as Mr. Rajesh of Sleek had earlier mentioned, and even Mr. Elenza, of Elenza director, they were talking about, Mr. Rajesh was talking about 450 by 450 mm panel has to rightly fit if you drill it right. Now, I have a manual boring machine, but I'm not still able to get. So what's the next thing I should do? Mr. Rajesh.
You are reinforcing our points that we have been discussing all this while. That you need good machines, you need good accurate machines, and accurate machines have to be set accurately. They've got to use the right kind of tools. Then yes, problems that you're basically talking about.
Today I have a CNC router, okay, and I put lights tooling inside, and still I get 0.2 to 0.3 on a CNC router. Is it acceptable or not?
Yeah, well, you are asking me the same question you asked me yesterday.
So I see
during
Govind
lunchtime.
shaking his head out.
No, you asked me the same question when you asked me during lunchtime yesterday. The CNC manufacturer should be able to tell you as to what should be the accuracies.
Well, I don't have your machine,
Yeah,
Govind.
the CNC machines definitely would work in microns.
Yeah.
What is very important, as you also said, as well as Ramu sir said, that we need a soul in the factory. And we all should agree here, whenever we walk into any factory, the first basic thing what we see is the factory is not clean. The cleanliness is very, very important in any factory. It should be as clean as when we walk into an apartment or into our house. So that's the base that starts, and from there, if you start, then it leads to cleaning of machines, and therefore preventive maintenance of machines. And when it comes to preventive maintenance of machine, it has to be definitely done by the operators. And
See,
therefore the training,
I would like to
training
interrupt.
of-
I would
training
like
of
to
operators.
interrupt. My machine is not yet commissioned. It's a brand new machine, which is a 30-day-old machine. So what do I do?
Yeah, therefore, it's very important the training.
So
of
the installing team has done their best, and still they are unable to solve the problem.
it's
You should take this up with the manufacturer.
I understand that, but
It
I
is-
need to
it is
understand
not,
whether
It is not
0.3.
possible for us to
No,
discuss
no.
this in
What
this
what
forum.
I'm trying to understand is 0.3 mm is acceptable or not?
No.
no.
If that is the question that you're asking.
Yes.
No.
Thank you.
It normally is not. Okay.
Thank you.
So let me complete this. Preventive maintenance would definitely ensure that your machines run with the accuracy that a manufacturer has specified. And as I told you, the key here is cleanliness, and that would ensure that your efficiencies, what in cabinet manufacturing we are talking about, would automatically come in. It would also set in a culture in your factory that yes, here what we are going to produce is accurate panels, good quality panels, and also efficient manufacturing.
Let me tell you an anecdote. As you grow older, this is the problem. You always go backwards and say so many things. I sold an Altendorf here a long time ago with great difficulty to one panel manufacturer in Bangalore. This is in the early days when panels were not very well understood. And my colleague D'Souza was with me at that time. And one day, after about 5-6 months, I had big arguments in D'Souza's chamber, so went across to see what's happening. And the customer was arguing with D'Souza to say, when you showed me the machine, you pushed it with one finger, everything was fine. Today I have 3 people pushing it and still the machine is not working. You have cheated me. So D'Souza didn't know what the hell to do. So he asked this guy, when did you last regrind the blade? He said, what regrind? You never told me I had to regrind the blade. So oftentimes what ends up happening is that we do not, the machinery manufacturers also do not explain the nuances of everything that has got to be done. We do not also take care of each of the machines in the manner in which we should also do it. This happens everywhere, like what he says as the dust. Dust is one of the biggest enemies for the machines. And we allow it to build up to such an extent that it will be on slides, it will be on everything, and it will be even on the operator, but still we go on with the same thing. Good practices. Yeah. Yes? You're too far away. Come a little nearer.
Sir, I would like to apologize first before asking the question, but from this platform, I don't want any wrong information to go outside the market. My question is, like, why WPC is not pest-proof, borer or termite, whether it may be any of the pest? You just told everyone that whether it's a particle board, MDF, or plywood or WPC, it's a new emerging product, but it's not a pest-proof. So I have a question, why WPC is not a pest-proof? As companies are claiming it's 100% pest-proof for lifetime. Being a knowledge in WPC, my question is, why this product is not pest-proof?
It is pest-proof.
You just told that it's not a pest-proof.
WPC is pest-proof. I did not mean that WPC itself was a pest. But WPC, whether you use that or not, cockroaches are still there.
Cockroaches are still there, but
yes.
You just told about borer and termite.
No,
are they going to affect that both?
Borer is not there. Cockroaches are there, and your little lizards and everything else that you normally find will be there. That is the basic thing that we talk about, because in the basic design,
but how lizard
what happens is, in the back of the cabinet, there is always a little bit of a gap, which becomes an infestation area.
But how lizard can be going to affect a particle board even? I am having my kitchen from, I think, best of ply, Hunsur ply in my home. But I don't know that you just told what the pest to a lizard. How lizard can affect even a particle board?
No.
Don't think that lizard can affect a particle board.
You are mixing up borers and termites with the rest of the things. Okay?
Okay.
Irrespective of what happens, your cockroaches and the rest of the things are part of a household problem in India everywhere. That is a different kind of a pest. The borers and termites are a different kind of a pest, okay, which work on the lignocellulosic materials specifically to attack them. These are biodegradation organisms. Okay, so that you need wood for that to be able to attack it.
And
normally you will not get it in particle board because of the process of manufacturing. But particle board is not entirely proof from termites, right? But the solid wood is attacked usually by both these, unless it is a different species.
And my question is, so sir, he told that he is working on the adhesive for WPCs. So when market can accept that you are going to deliver the solution to the market?
The WPC solution is ready. Only thing is it is to be launched physically. It has already been there. I don't see a difficulty in WPC solution. And the solution what is worked is with the boiling water proof. So that's a solution what we are looking at. We are not looking at a solution at economical, though the demand industry was asking for a cheaper price. But we are looking at a product which gives, because WPC is supposed to be the highest, means a high end. So we are trying to give it a boiling water proof, and I think it's already ready. It is just it's a time when it reaches every marketplace. That's the only thing.
Okay, thanks.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Harshal from Hafley. I have a question.
Okay, the last question. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask, in order to execute technically good kitchens, right? Technically good kitchens, what is the minimum one has to invest into machines? That's first. And then how much time ideally it would take if the shifts are running, if they have enough orders that they produce material for 8 hours a shift, how much time would it take in order to recover the money out of the ROI?
Okay, the next speaker is going to be talking about that, and I shouldn't take the air out of Stefano's sail. So Stefano will answer this, okay?
Okay.
Now we wind it up. Allow Stefano to speak. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any further problems, all of us are here, and you can all ask us at any point in time. Thank you very much.